Hey, welcome to Paint Your Paint. My name is Ross, and today we're going to look at some head proportions. In this video, we're going to look at a couple of proportional guidelines that will help us place the eyes on the head, as well as help us size the eyes accurately. That way, whenever we draw a head, we'll be able to draw the facial features proportionally accurate. Let's get started. All right, let's first look at where the eyes fit along the vertical axis of the head. To do this, let's look at the head from two different views, a front view and a side view. And we'll use this drawing of a head as a basic shape to help illustrate where the eyes fit along this vertical axis. As we begin to draw the eyes, one of the first things we need to consider is how far up or down the height of the head do we draw the eyes. To determine where to draw them, one place we can turn to is the established proportional guides used for figure drawing. These figure proportion guides were created by artists who observed some commonalities between the shapes and forms of the body. They then in turn created guides to help out the rest of us. These guides tell us that the eyes sit at the halfway point or at the middle of the height of the head. The length or distance from the top of the head down to the eyes is the same distance as from the eyes down to the bottom of the chin. If we were to examine the height of the eye relative to the head by measuring the distances above the eye and below the eye on people we see around us, we would find this to be true. We would find that each person's eye sits at or near the middle of their head. Let's explore how to do this. First, we want to find the overall height of the head. To do this, we can draw a line down the center of our basic shape we've drawn representing the head. Start the line at the top of the head and end it at the bottom of the chin. This line is our first proportional guideline. We'll use this guideline to place the facial features and work out most of the proportional relationships between each other and the head. Because this line is the length of the head or represents the length of the head, we can use this line to help place the eyes against the height of the head. To do so, we divide this line in half to find the middle of the head. We then draw a horizontal line across the head at this point. This is our second proportional guideline. This is where the eyes go. Each eye will sit on this line. Before we go any further here, I'd like to point something out. I want you to take a note to remember that you're measuring the whole head and not just the face. This is a common mistake amongst beginners. I especially see this in my figure drawing classes where they're drawing a person from observation. The thing we need to do is remember that we're measuring from the top of the head and not the top of the face. We need to remember that the top of the head is above the hairline, somewhere within the body of the hair. Now, this is an important clarification to make because if we start measuring at the wrong point, all our future measurements and proportions will be off. Now that we know where along this vertical axis to place the eyes, or how high up on the head we need to place those eyes, and we've drawn a line indicating where to place them, we can ask ourselves two questions. Where along this horizontal line should we place each individual eye, and how big should each eye be? To put it another way, we need to determine how wide each eye needs to be and how far apart from each other we need to place them. The good news is we can determine both the width of the eyes and the distance between the eyes with one set of measurements. Let's start with the width of the eyes. The width of the eye is about 1/5 the width of the head. If we divide the head into 5 equal parts, we'll get the measurement for the width of an eye. If we were to reverse the wording of this guideline, we'd learn that the head is also 5 eyes wide. So if we started by drawing the eye, we could actually use this rule to determine the width of the head. Since we started by drawing the head and are learning to place the eyes, let's go ahead and continue on with that. To get this measurement, we just divide this horizontal line into 5 equal segments that fit in between each side of the head, and we're ready to figure out where to place each eye along this horizontal axis on the head. Again, the good news is we've already done the work for this. When we found the measurement for the width of each eye by dividing the head into fifths, we've already marked the location for each eye. To explain how this works, the first thing we need to know is that the distance between the two eyes is the same as the width of one eye. To phrase this in another way, the space between the eyes is 1 eye wide. Let's look at the center of our horizontal line where it intersects with the vertical line. The center segment of the 5 segments that we divided the width of the head into fits squarely in the middle of the head. Because the length of that segment represents both the width of the eye and the distance between the eyes, we really don't need to take any extra steps. We've already indicated the space between the eyes, and because each segment on either side of that center segment sets up the width of the eyes, we're really done measuring and we can start to draw the eyes. There's one point I'd like to clarify here. If we're to examine the widths of the eyes of the people around us, we're going to find a lot of variation here. So with our first guide, we don't really have that much flexibility. The eyes need to be at or near the halfway point of the head. However, with that second rule, we have a little bit more flexibility, and we can very subtly change the size of the eyes to fit our needs. Still, this proportional guide is very helpful as it gives us a starting point to set up the width of the eyes. We can just make subtle adjustments to the width of the eye if we feel we need to. Alright, that's it for this video. We've looked at how we can use the proportional guides to size and locate the eyes when drawing a head. We've not yet addressed placing and sizing the eyes, dealing with the issues of perspective, but this is a great place to start learning to draw the head and its features consistently, and it's something I would encourage you to practice. To practice this, draw a simple head shape and then practice drawing eyes on that head. Practice placing and sizing the eyes on that head and then draw some eyes. Drawing the eyes will actually help you see how well you did in placing and sizing those eyes. If you need to make adjustments to your drawing, go ahead and do so. Making adjustments to your drawings just helps you improve your ability to place and size those eyes more accurately. Once you finish that drawing, go ahead and do another. I always encourage you to practice more because it's the practice that will help you commit these proportional guides to memory, and you'll find that after a few times, this will get easier and easier to do. Enjoy drawing, and if you have any questions about this, please feel free to ask.